Joining late to any Minecraft SMP is a pain. You spawn in with absolutely nothing, and then have to spend the next few days of your life grinding to catch up with the rest of the server. But what if I could take a long boring task like that and do it in only a few hours? Well, that's what I set off to find out, unknowingly putting myself on a path of immense wealth and violence. But before any of that, I needed to get some basic gear. So, like in any Minecraft world, I punched some trees and made some basic tools. Then, using the spawn nether portal, Jackson and I headed to the nether. That's right, this is Jackson. He's been my teammate on a number of servers and we'll be working together. Anyways, in the nether, I quickly spotted another portal far in the distance. And after walking for a bit, I had arrived. Heading through, we were greeted with a stronghold and a completed end portal. And so, heedless of another server member's words, we jumped in.
The end is in fact not closed, guys. It was a debate.
Since the dragon was already dead, I quickly clicked an ender pearl, and together me and Jackson entered an end gate.
Alright, we can make that pearl. Or not.
But these setbacks, although annoying, weren't able to stop us, as a few short minutes later, we both entered the Outer End Islands. The Outer End Islands, floating pale rocks in a black, lifeless abyss, home to end cities, swarming with shulkers, and also some of the best loot in the game. To complete my first goal of getting stacked, I would need to raid a lot of these. So, me and Jackson set out, bridging across the void, throwing daring ender pearls, all in the hopes of finding just one end city. And eventually we did. However, we'd exhausted all of our current gear getting there. So, upon entering, we were quickly killed by the ruthless shulkers. Upon respawning, we were greeted with the faces of many players, and chaos quickly ensued. But even though I wasn't making the progress I was hoping for at this point, I was still having fun messing around with the other server members, without a care in the world. Sometimes I forget what vanilla Minecraft feels like, without some sort of twist. But after Jackson logged off, I realized that I still had a long way to go to achieving my first objective, which was getting stacked. So I headed back to the end and began raiding end cities.
Well, I got 2 shovels and some boots.
With my shiny new diamond armor and an elytra, I flew from end city to end city, using the world seed that someone sent me earlier and a website to locate end ships.
Oh, nice. Or whatever.
2 hours later, I had acquired full protection 4 armor and a ton of shulker shells. So, with this almost perfect gear, I headed back to the overworld to make a base. But before I could do that, I needed some actual food. Coarse fruit just wasn't cutting it. So, I gathered some flowers and mushrooms and began making some of the best food in the game. Saturations too. And so with my food problem solved, I needed to move on to my next objective, which was making a base. So, while gathering mushrooms, Jackson had been searching for a good spot to build a base, and after finding a nice village, I headed over, and we began constructing the base. The first step was to gather all the villagers we needed and then drop them down into a pit. Then, we dug out a little area to contain them. Oh god, what am I even saying? Then we put them in a box with food, and I'm sure you know the rest.
And now we just need to wait 1 to 2 business days.
And so with the villager breeder made and a quick base redesign, all we needed was to wait for the villagers to grow up. But they never did. In fact, there weren't any babies in the breeder in the first place. The villager breeder simply did not work. But that was impossible, right? I mean, I built it following a schematic, meaning all the blocks had been perfectly placed. I rechecked it and found nothing wrong. Confused, I began working on an iron farm in the hopes the breeder would magically start working. It did not. And it was quite some time later until I figured out the problem. See, villagers in Minecraft can only breed during the day, but additionally, it has to be a specific time in the day, after their working stage. So, when I resurfaced from the base to go grab some wood, I noticed something peculiar.
I think I realized the issue. There's no daylight cycle. It's permanently day.
And so while I waited for the admin to fix the daylight cycle, I headed to spawn for a deal with Spacey. The deal was, since he gave me the world seed, I would give him 64 shulker shells and an elytra, which, although a lot, was quite easy to get, since I knew all the locations of the end cities. In return for following through on the deal, I would receive 2 stacks of emeralds and some maxed armor for Jackson. But there was already a problem. When I got to spawn, he didn't join the call, and then soon after, he left the server. Thinking I was getting scammed, I left spawn and began mining gold. That way, I would have some golden apples if things went south.
I can't just keep... Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I didn't have any emeralds, I couldn't buy any apples. Meaning, if he started critting me out, I would be defenseless. But it was already too late to worry. As he had gotten back, it was asking to VC. So, I joined his call, hoping desperately to make it out of this alive. The deal was all around quite shaky. Before he'd even made the trade, he was fake drinking strength pots and pulling back his bow. Did he know that I didn't have pots or gaps? Luckily, nothing came of it, and he handed me the items. However, it didn't end there, because he wanted to test his sword on me. This was an obvious sign he was planning to kill me, but he actually didn't. He just left the call after the deal was done, letting me fly away. Confused, I flew back to base. Back at base, the sun still wasn't moving, so I went to sleep in real life, feeling accomplished of what I'd gotten done in a day. In the morning when I woke up, I logged on and the sun was working again. So, with the emerald space he gave me, I began setting up some villagers. And after I made a toolsmith to sell iron to, because that's my primary source of income, I noticed something peculiar. He wasn't locking his trade. See, normally after you sell a certain amount of items to a villager, they stop buying after a set amount, and then you have to wait for them to restock. But in this case, the villager was just buying iron from me endlessly. At first, I thought he was glitched, until I looked at the server's listed plugins, and there it was right there, instant restock. With this in mind, I quickly came up with the strategy for infinite emeralds, since waiting for my iron farm was inefficient. Basically, librarians have a potential trade unlock to sell glass blocks. So I could buy these blocks for cheap, and then craft them into glass panes, and sell them for a profit to a cured cartographer. And that's what I did for the next hour or so, alternating between making copious amounts of emeralds and getting librarians for enchanted books. And so, after I'd maxed out my gear set, I remembered that I needed netherite to make it perfect. So, into the nether I headed, mining thousands of blocks, making a maze of hell. And after almost an entire hour, yes, I really was that unlucky, I had enough to make full netherite tools and weapons. Over the next few days, I repeated this process of making profit and spending it all on gear, until I had made several backup gear sets, completing another goal. But then I had a realization: what if instead of making the extra gear backups, we sold it to the other server members? This idea continued to stick in the back of my head as I made more gear, but with another pressing matter at hand, I pushed it to the side. See, I was running out of shulker shells, since I had given 64 of them to Spacey earlier, and because of this, I didn't have enough shulkers for pots and XP. And with Jackson relying on me for my shulker boxes, he needed some as well. So we both headed to the end and began raiding end cities.
Oh, this one's been loaded.
The World Seed was indeed making this process extremely easy. Almost too easy, and I thought for a moment about how using it for personal gain was indeed quite selfish. However, I pushed that thought aside, with the idea that I could use the gear stored in these boxes to help other server members if they needed it. And right then and there, I vowed to protect and uphold a sense of justice. If someone needed my help, I would help them. And it wasn't long until I found one such instance of injustice. A player was abusing the server rules against killing naked kids to try to get a free gear set. But it didn't stop there, as a little later it seemed like some of the players were abusing more rules to keep someone in a fight. At this point, I reached out to the player on the receiving end of all of this, Tim, asking him if he wanted my help. He quickly responded with the coordinates, however they were tens of thousands of blocks out. So, me and Jackson quickly flew through the nether and located the portal.
Oh, there's a portal here.
Upon entering, we arrived at the precise coordinates, where a massive skybase towered overhead. We quickly flew up, and after a quick look around, jumped the players who were abusing. One of the players, Hoodie, escaped before we could get many hits on him, but the other, Cupid's, was not so lucky.
He's using Elytra too.
We chased him for the next few minutes, until finally, we dug underground. Normally, this is where I would employ the tactic of F3 plus A to find him underground.
Oh, I see blocks breaking down here.
Oh, he left the game.
But unfortunately, he logged out before I could get to him, breaking one of the server's rules. Even though Cupid's had broken the rules and Hoodie had escaped, I didn't really care. They were just a minor inconvenience, and I had much more pressing matters at hand to deal with, since I had a deal with Dino to carry out.
So, you're interested in a business proposition, eh?
Yeah.
Alright, so what do you think a max gear set is worth to you?
I'd say like a shulker of gunpowder.
We have a gunpowder farm.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't have much more than that.
How about 2 netherite blocks?
I don't know if that's worth a god set though.
I mean, this has potions and elytra also.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll do 2 netherite blocks.
Alright, 2 netherite blocks, and yeah, exactly 1 day.
Alright.
Alright.
And so with the deal secured, I logged off for the day. The next day, I sent him a DM, asking if he'd gotten the netherite, as per our agreement. However, he didn't respond, so the next day, I sent him this.
Dino, for every day you fail to respond, I'm going to add 1 netherite block to the total you owe us. Failure to pay up will result in a kill on site. If you do end up paying, you will get the gear as agreed. The price is now 3 netherite blocks.
However, even after all that, he still refused to pay up, so now he was the kill on site. And later that day, I got my opportunity.
Okay. I had to get up there. I almost dropped there, honestly.
How are you?
Oh! Well,
Creeper wins, I guess.
After that absolute kill steal by the creeper, and almost dying myself, I met up with Hamo for a trade offer. Basically, he wanted elytras, since the end dimension had been closed just a day ago. Meaning, I now had a monopoly on one of the rarest things on the server. So, in exchange for 1 netherite block, I would give him 1 elytra, since netherite is the only thing my base can't automatically produce. And so the trade commenced. With 2 netherite blocks in my inventory, I headed back to base, where I decided to schedule a fight with Hoodie and Cupids to end our beef. The only problem, it was in 1 day, and I didn't have nearly enough golden apples or other supplies for the fight. So I set out into the nether, raiding bastions for their gold blocks.
over a stack of gold blocks.
And so with 5 stacks of gold blocks collected, I headed back and crafted a ton of gaps. And after some final potion brewing and organizing of my ender chest, me and Jackson headed to spawn for our fight.
Oh my god, you squeezed down, bro.
I just used a stack of cobwebs, that's not good. Oh wait, someone broke!
Nice.
Got him. He's in the cobweb, right?
Got him.
I'd like to say that things ended there, that after killing Hoodie and Cupids, we'd won the fight. That was it. Except it wasn't the end.
Watch out!
Hoodie had taken everything, and after flying away, he logged out midair, leaving us with no chance of getting the gear back. With all the gear gone, I was enraged. These guys broke rules so often, you could forget there even were rules. But it didn't matter. Regardless of all that, I had a plan. See, I noticed a player named Crimzish chilling near spawn, and thinking I could use him to help find Hoodie and Cupid's base, I offered him a deal. A max shulker of gear for tracking down their base. And right away, he got to work. Using a mod I'd never heard of before, it somehow allowed him to see block entities like ender chests in unloaded chunks. Using this, he quickly triangulated where the base was. So we headed to the nether roof to fly there faster.
Oh, we're good, he's an Elytra. Oh, it's right here. Alright, I'm going through.
Upon entering the portal, I felt my first feelings of doubt. This portal looked awfully familiar to the same portal I'd gone through days ago to get Tim. But I soon brushed that aside, as neither Hoodie nor Cupid were online, and Crimzish was taking us to a different area than before.
Oh, this is a base. This is a terrible base.
It's a re-gearing base.
Wait.
Wow. I knew it. Crimson's killing me too. So
He is?
yep. So I knew it.
We had been betrayed. Crimsish had set us up. And now all we could do was make a simple choice. To run or fight.
I don't have any bows left.
You can't be telling me that now. It's like,
I'm low. I'm running low on that.
how many gouts do you have?
5.
Oh. Ciao.
If I could. Why won't my saturation go down? I'm dead. I'm dead.
With Jackson dead, I had no chance of 3v1ing. All I could do was run. And run I did.
I'll just go in the water until I find a dolphin, honestly. Okay, they're using a life share.
That's bannable.
I found a dolphin. I'm out.
And after narrowly escaping with my life, I messaged the server owner about the rule breakers. And several hours later, it was done. Cupids and Hoodie had been banned. And I had only received minor punishment for equipping my elytra when I thought I was out. This also completed my final goal of getting revenge for Jackson.